fellow music lovers, welcome to Studio to Stereo, where I connect you to some of the coolest artists I know, and we talk about all things awesome from their studio to your stereo, if you still have one. Today, I talked to Heather Kathryn. I'm really excited to have you here with me and get to talk to you about music and life, and of course, your new single that's coming out. So, I got a
Yeah,
lot of questions, and I think we can just dive in. Sound good?
amazing. Sounds great.
So, first, let's kind of just start at the beginning. What made you want to get into music? What really fueled that kind of spark for you?
Yeah, this is embarrassing. The very first music thing I did was in kindergarten, and we did it was like a little play, and it was called the Three Piggy Opera. And so I was the pig that sold bricks to the other pigs, and I was like, wait, I kind of like being on stage. This is kind of fun. And then I just started singing. My mom was like, you've always been singing like for your entire life. And then, yeah, I just never stopped, I guess.
I feel like that's how it goes. I feel like everybody kind of has one of those really embarrassing, like, first productions. I did dance as a kid, and I remember like vividly burnt into my brain. I was like 3, and they had us like come out of this like little igloo, and we were in like these little like white costumes, and like our teacher would dress up as a polar bear. And as like to end, you're supposed to like do like a somersault or like a forward roll like over her, and then like kind of like sashay like off the stage. And I remember, I think I was fine with it. I'd have to look back at the video because of course there is video evidence of it
Yes,
still somewhere
same.
in mom's house. um but like you watch a bunch of like little toddlers, and like we were told if you couldn't get over, the person behind you was supposed to like push you. And so you just see a bunch of like little 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds just like pushing each other over this. She's like 16 or 17 in that polar bear costume. She just wants to
That
go
is
home.
that is so
And
funny.
um, but that was, I kind of always really liked being the center of attention after that. And so it kind of doesn't translate. I don't sing much, but kind of in that same realm. You just kind of get a taste of it, and
Yeah,
you just kind of roll with that. So I
exactly.
love that. And now that I'm embarrassed myself,
No,
um,
same.
another kind of like part of our childhood, right, is the artists that we listen to growing up can really kind of play a huge role in shaping and developing a lot of what we listen to in the future, or kind of the inspiration for your unique sound if you decide to become a musician. So who would you say, I guess, would be some of those artists that you liked listening to, and how do you think they've helped shape your music?
Yeah. So my mom listened to a lot of classic rock. So I have a lot of classic rock influences. And then I listen to top 40s pop, like Kelly Clarkson and Natasha
Oh
Bedingfield and
yeah.
just all the girlies. I was like, that was when I was really, really young. And then I got into Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez, very much pop girlies.
Hmm.
And then in high school I started listening to pop punk music, and I was like, this is what I love. And it was reminded me of 2007 Kelly Clarkson, and I was like, oh, I love this. Um and yeah, so I feel just the rock and kind of just everything, it just kind of all fits into what I'm doing now, because I do more rock pop punk style music. And when I first started doing music, I was doing pop music. So I was like, that checks out too.
Oh
But
yeah.
I was like, oh, there's so many pop artists. Let me do something else.
I feel like we've kind of lived the same life a little bit,
Okay.
because that was the same thing. Like you were saying it, and I was like, we started with that classic rock. Like my mom, that's what she listened to. Was a lot of music from like the 70s and the 80s, and like she loved Meatloaf, and I didn't really appreciate him until I was a little bit older, because I would always like sit in the back and like cover my ears because I was like, I hate this. I don't like this. I was also very much a pop girly growing up. Not to, age myself, but I was born in the early 90s. And so I was very big, like Britney Spears girl
Love
and
Britney.
boy bands and those kind of things. And then, of course, as I got into high school, I listened to a lot of Justin Bieber growing up, and I still do. But also, kind of like you, I kind of veered into the pop punk and those kind of things, and that's kind of where I live now, and I love it. It was kind of like an epiphany, I feel like, when I listened to it. And so I'll say, like, I feel like that was kind of a feeling I got when I was like listening to your music. I was like, this is cool. Like, I love this. This is why I listen to pop punk music. And so when you're working on music, where do you pull some of that inspiration from for like lyrics and things like that? Is it real life, friends, family?
I would say about 98% of the music I write is something that has happened to me. Going on a bad date, just like having bad experiences, working, talking myself through whatever's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, it's like writing songs is like the way to like, for me to process how I'm feeling about a situation. So a lot of it is very real. Um, but there's always that like 2% that like my friends are like, let's throw this lyric in there. And I'm like, that works. So you never know.
As you're kind of going, then, who would you say would be some of like the biggest motivators in your life to keep like pushing on and pursuing your career? Because it can be hard, right? To kind of get started and try to find and keep that momentum going.
Yeah, I feel like I have like such a great like support system of musicians and friends. Like my best friend Drew he's a producer and a writer, and so he's doing sessions every day all day long. So I have that, and then I have like my other friends, my bandmates, like just everybody, and we're all just kind of like together creating. So I feel like I'm never like not pushed to do music. Like it's always just like that's just what I do. Like and if I'm like anytime someone sees me, they're like what are you doing? Any new music coming out? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like I can never not talk about my music. It's always like forefront of conversation.
So you would say that your life isn't tragic, would you? Thank
It's
you.
not. It's
Thank
not.
you. So, for my listeners, that was a segue that I think is very clever. If you
It was.
looked at my notes, thank you. I even wrote like pause for laughter. So I was already really confident that it was funny. And if you wouldn't have laughed, I would have recovered, but I would have been a little sad inside.
No, it
Um,
was funny. It was funny.
Thank you. Thank you. But that then takes us into talking about your new single. It's called My
Yes,
Tragic Life.
it
So
is.
tell us about it.
So I wrote this when I was in one of those bad headspaces. I wrote it with my best friend. We were on her couch and I was like, shoot, because we were like, what are we gonna write about today? Because we just like had scheduled like a writing session. And I was like, I don't know, my tragic life. And she was like, wait, that's kind of great. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was like how the title like came to be. And then we just started writing, and it's a lot about just like to me it's a lot about being a woman in like the music
Mhm.
industry and kind of being like put down and like men only like looking at you as like a sexual object rather than a
Mhm.
musician, which happens to me quite literally anytime I walk into a room at a show. They're like, who are you? You're selling merch. And I'm like, I am quite literally on the marquee, but okay. So it was just like a way for me to be like, oh, like this is frustrating, and like it's just to me I just really like the song. I don't know.
I mean, as you should. It is a very, very cool song. I promise to my listeners out there, you're gonna love it. I did, and I
Thank
think
you.
it's exactly what you said. Like, it's I think it's a testament to the time of being a woman in the music industry, but really just being a woman in general. And sometimes, walking into a space where, like you said, you're on the marquee. Like, this is your show, and people kind of sometimes men, right? This is not going to turn into the men bashing show, but sometimes it's
But it's
men
always the men.
who are just like, they kind of like want to downplay, your successes or like what you're doing. And I think that the more that we kind of band together and combat that and have cool songs like that, I think that that is really crucial into kind of like the landscape. So you should be very proud of it. I think it's very
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little happy. It comes out so soon.
Yes, yes. And it is the first single off of your new EP that's
Off of
coming out.
my new EP that's
So
coming out.
that is insane. So, how do you feel like the song has set the tone or the stage for like this new, like era of music with your EP?
Yeah, it was like because I had this one written before I was like I'm gonna do an EP. I was like I'm gonna put this song out, and then I was like actually I'm gonna do an EP, and I started writing a bunch of songs and co-writing songs, and I was like I think this like EP is just gonna be like about myself because I have a lot of people just being like she only writes songs about guys and all her career is just gonna be about all these men because she's just like Taylor Swift, and I'm like listen guys, like I write other songs, like I swear. And so like it kind of started as like a here, I can prove it to you that I don't just write songs about guys. And I was like gonna call it not about boys. And then I was writing the last song and I was like, I don't know what to write. And I was with my producer and I was like, I can't figure it out. And then I wrote a love song and I was like, never mind. I was like, scrap that. And then I think the title is just going to be My Tragic Life for the full EP as well. Just because it kind of fits the theme of every song. But yeah,
And I mean, let's be real, sometimes relationships can make your life tragic. And so I think that, wow, this turned out a lot more cynical than I anticipated,
that's
but
fair.
but I think that it all kind of fits together. And, I think that's really cool. And I'm excited to hear it and hear it all come together. And so, I know you can't spill a whole lot. You got to keep some things surprises, but
Yeah.
are there any kind of hints or breadcrumbs that you could share? Like, how many tracks are we getting? What kind of vibe can we expect? We know we got a love song.
There's a love song. That's so embarrassing to admit. But okay, Breadcrumbs is coming out this summer. Let's see. There's gonna be three singles, and I don't know. Two of them are already songs that I play at shows. The rest are new songs. Or three of them are
Ooh,
songs that I play at shows, and three of them are new.
well, that's a cool hint there. So you've been playing a couple at shows and things like that, so you kind of got the vibe. But do you have a favorite track, or is it My Tragic Life, or is another one?
Ooh. I really like a lot. Like I really like all of them. My right now, like My Tragic Life is my favorite, and I think it was just because it's like I love jumping around on stage and like screaming that. But there's a couple others that I'm really, really excited for.
That's so exciting.
Mhm.
And so you've kind of got all this together, and I kind of want to go back to like as you were working on this, kind of compiling everything for the project. How did you know that it was ready to be released? When did you know that you could say yes, this is ready for the world?
Um, I think it was a lot of just writing sessions. Like, because right now, like it's not fully completely done. It's like still being produced out. But it's like I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, like we're just producing the songs. I have to record vocals and then they're like done.
Mhm.
Um, so it was just like, oh, like here's a bunch of songs, like we're writing them, and then I was like, I don't know if I like this one, and it was like just going back and forth, and then I was like, I have like my friends as like my trial audience. So I'd be like, can you guys listen to this and tell me if it's bad, and like just things like that. But yeah, normally I feel like a lot of my songs before I've released them, I've just been able to like test them out at shows and see what people think,
Mhm.
which is like great. But for some of these songs, it's like they're gonna be the first time people have ever heard them. So I'm kind of just like hoping people like them. I'm like, I don't know. But I like them, so whatever.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. And I feel like that would be so, that has to be really nerve wracking, right? To be like, these are things that I really like. Things you put kind of your heart and soul into. And you're like, here you go. I hope that you I hope that you like it. You know, how do you kind of deal with that? Like how do you like what do you tell us like psych yourself up?
I'm just like, like, because I'll send it to like the bandmates, like I'll send it to like my mom and like like a couple people and be like, "What do you think? Like, tell me it's good." And then like once I get from like writing to like fully like the song is done stage, like I'm always pretty hype about the song, and I'm like, okay. So I feel like it's not like I'm never like too nervous when I'm like actually releasing it. I feel like for an EP, like it's a little bit more stressful because I've never put out like a body of work. So I'm
Mhm.
normally just like, here's a single, hope you like it. But now I'm like, here's a bunch of songs. Hope you like all of them. So it's a new thing that I'm working through.
And so as you kind of go through, you know, all of that, your mom, your friends, your bandmates, you know, do you have any that are just then end up kind of on the cutting room floor and you're like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board?
There's a song right now that is on the EP that I'm like, I don't know if I like it. And then everybody's like, you have to keep it. It's so good. But it's like just like we need to like mess with the production more, and then I'm gonna probably be in love with it. Like, and it's just like there's certain aspects of the song that I'm like, I love this part, but then there's certain parts where I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it. So it's kind of like that's the only one that I'm like iffy about, and I've been iffy about
Mhm.
it since the beginning. But everybody else has loved it, so it's hard to like be like no, but also yes, because like I like the theme of it. So it's a
Mhm.
lot. It's just kind of hard. But yeah, it's she's
Okay.
she's on the chopping block, but we'll see.
Well, I hope she stays because I'm
Yeah,
excited to hear it when it all comes together. And I think it's really exciting that this is, you know, your like you said, your first big body of work, which is a huge accomplishment. So again, congratulations. I think that that is incredible, and it's a testament, right, to kind of how you've been growing in the industry, as you know, we all do, and how. And I guess it kind of brings me to a question then, is like, how do you feel that you've grown since you kind of started this journey in the music industry?
this is so funny. Also, it's 222 in Los Angeles, so just putting that out.
It was
But
a
I have
sign.
it's a sign. That's actually my lucky number. But I have grown. It's like so embarrassing, like how like not embarrassing how much I've grown, but embarrassing where I was to like where I am now. Like I'll literally like talk to my best friend Drew and I'll be like, thanks for being friends with me when I was really bad. Like and like we'll sit and we'll listen to like the old demos we made like our first quarter of college. And I'm like, I literally couldn't sing. Like why like how did how did this happen? And like he's always like, you weren't that bad. I'm like, no, but it was bad. Like we can acknowledge that I'm just it's funny because we'll record vocals and he'll like send me the song and I'll just be like, since when can I hit those notes? Like who allowed me to do that? Like from like where I was before. And like not just singing wise, but like performing, I used to be so anxious and I would like cry on stage. Like I literally have a video of me at like 16 crying on stage while singing. And I was like, when I book my first tour, I'll post it. Like that's but until then it will not be seen by anyone. And I just think it's so funny. But now I just like it's like I played like the Troubadour in LA and like I'm like playing this like festival at the Hollywood Palladium in like 2 days and I'm playing a music festival this summer. So I'm like doing the things that I love doing and it's like little me would just be so happy. Be like, oh, she's finally doing it. Like she like it's about time.
For you to, you know, get back on stage and get to, you know, where you're going to be playing those festivals and, you know, dreaming of a tour that I hope comes very soon. I think that that is also just kind of a huge testament to you. So I think that is awesome. And again, congratulations on all that you've got coming out this year and
Thank
the single,
you.
the EP. Um, Speaking of kind of tour, anything else planned? More shows coming up? What can we look forward to?
I think the biggest show I'm playing is in May. I'm doing a music festival, which is super exciting, in LA. But just like looking forward to booking more things. I've just kind of been like on the back burner for shows because I've been like trying to finish this EP.
Mhm.
So I'm like, oh no, like I need to get it done. So just yeah, putting a lot of focus into that and like prepping for the festival and everything else. But yeah,
So how does it feel like playing festivals? Like that's a huge kind of stage to be on.
it's my first festival, so I'm not
Oh, so
sure
you so
yet.
we're like, we don't even know yet. We're winging it. I love
Yeah.
that from you.
It's I'm very, very excited. I actually like own a small company called Townhouse 8, which is like a it's like an artist showcase. And just to give like more local performers opportunities to perform. And so I'm actually curating a whole stage. So it's like one day of just like artists that I handpicked to perform.
Oh
And
wow.
then like they were like, also you have to also perform. And I was like, great. Like I want to do that. But also I'm excited to like have my friends like go up on stage and perform like 30-minute sets. Like I just think it's going to be really, really fun.
I love that, you have that and you're kind of piloting that kind of way for, those artists to get out there because like we kind of talked about, right? It can be tricky sometimes to kind of get your way, get in and get started. And so to have someone in your corner like you are, right, to help get them started, I think that that's really cool. And how, well, now I'm curious about that. And like, so how do you hope that that grows as you kind of grow?
With the company in general, is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
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 I mean, I would love like I've always wanted to own like a company. I've always wanted to like own like a record label or something of that sort of just like for women and like LGBT community. Like I like no straight men allowed. Like we're X the straight men, like none like get out of here. Like there's too many of you. You all make me feel bad about myself. Leave. So I'm kind of
Yes.
just like we're doing like women non-binary like LGBT like moment. And so I like feel like this is kind of like a stepping stone towards that. Like it's like, oh, I'm starting this one, like we'll see where this goes. And like I want to book more festivals. I want to book bigger venues. Like I've been doing it for a while, so it's something that I really love doing. But yeah, I just like I hope it grows. But it's also time consuming. So it's like
Yeah.
finding and it's like I do everything myself. So it's like I have to like do all of this and that. And so I'm like, okay, we'll see like where it goes. But my roommate's like, don't let it die. And I'm like, okay, like it won't.
I agree. I agree with your roommate. Don't let it die. And I'm also really kind of obsessed with no straight men allowed. And I kind of really want that on a t-shirt. Like I just kind of want to like walk
I
around.
agree.
Like, I would say no offense to the straight men, and if any of them are listening, but this is the one time where I would say no straight men allowed. I think that that's a reasonable request out there.
Yeah.
And to create some of those spaces. So I think I do wish you the best of luck with that. I think that that'll be awesome. Don't let it die.
Thank
You
you.
got
Me too.
this. um, and it was absolutely amazing to kind of get to talk to you. And
Yes.
that's all I really kind of have for today. Any last things you want to say? Drop before we go.
Nothing on me, but I just want to say thank you so much for having me on this
Of
podcast. This
course.
is so iconic, and you're an icon, and I'm so
Thank
happy to be
you.
here.
I hope that you enjoyed today's conversation with Heather Kathryn. Make sure that you follow Studio to Stereo on all of our socials. Make sure you give us 5 stars on Spotify. And all of Heather Kathryn's socials will be linked. Check out all of her music and My Tragic Life out now.